Peace, peace, peace. Let me turn that one down. Today I'll be reading from this author. Is a female author. Her name is Teresa Renee Hunt. I'll be reading a random chapter out of this book today, and it's called Position to Be Found, How to Prepare Yourself for Marriage Right Now. That's that. So here we go. Okay. Bear with me. Yep. Okay. So this is chapter 7. Stick to your standards. Jewel of wisdom. Having standards will allow you to experience a caliber of man that is more in alignment with your true desire. When you lower your standards, you make yourself vulnerable to regret, disappointment, and frustration due to your own decision to compromise. It is time to break the cycle of compromise and stick to your standards. Ready for the ring. He was tall, dark, handsome, and every time he spoke, he made me melt like chocolate under a hot summer sun. He knew just the right compliments to offer each time I saw him. He always called my phone at the perfect moment, and he was there to lift me up when I had a rough day. He was sweet, thoughtful, funny, and kind. It had been a long time since someone made me feel this good. I did not want to give this feeling up. I wanted this to continue. Who wouldn't have? So I continued to date him, hoping that the two of us could have a long-lasting relationship. Even though he could not keep a job, he did not have a car, he was camping out at his friend's house for free, he had abusive tendencies, a sexual addiction, and a history of unfaithfulness. The perk was that he was a Christian man. He was actively involved in the church, and no one knew how he really was. I believe for sure that he would change. Even though he had not been a faithful man prior to me, I honestly thought by him being with me that I could change him. Even though I had earned my bachelor's and master's degrees and he had not finished undergraduate school, nor did he have a full-time job, I chose to think optimistically by believing that eventually he would make a decent living. Yes, he was emotionally and verbally abusive at times and even gripped me up a time or two. However, his words like honey soothed my concerns and nervousness every time. He showed me he liked me. He said he loved me, and I was determined to believe him. Why not give him a chance? In the past, I dated men who appeared to have their life more in order than he did, but the relationship did not work out. Why not? Why not try something new? I anticipated spending time with him because out of many other women he could have chosen, I caught his eye. Yes, I'll give this a try. Have you ever met a guy just blew you away and swept you off your feet? Good looking, made you feel loved, lavish with gifts, compliments, attention, and more. He was always there when you needed company. He made you smile, kept you daydreaming, and he met your emotional needs. Yes, he may have a few flaws, well, maybe more like many, but you were willing to overlook them because you loved the way he made you feel. He may have owned a Pinto or Lemon instead of a Mercedes. He may have he may have even had some unattractive habits, such as using profanity, spending more money on material items than investing in the future. being prideful, arrogant, or selfish sometimes. He may not have been fully dedicated to his own success and much of others. Quite possibly, he had multiple children with a different baby mama, but you were willing to overlook that. You was willing to overlook that misfortune too. Maybe his criminal background was less than perfect, or his status was something than others other than single, like dating other women, engaged to his fiance or married. Although he warmed the pew at church from time to time, he may have been biblically illiterate and spiritually empty, but you still wanted to be with him. In spite of all the flaws, he just had a way of tapping into your feelings, and you were going to give this man a chance, thinking, forget about what I used to want. Maybe this man here could provide it and more. Am I talking to you, girl? I have been in a situation just like this, right along with you. At some point in our lives, we both decided to see the best in him. And as much as we may not want to admit it, we believe we had superwoman powers, which would set him free from his flaws for him to become the man we truly wanted. We hoped that he would turn out to be a Christian. We hoped he would overcome the random fits of anger. We hoped he would become financially stable. He, we hope he will rid himself of ungodly habits. We even we even hope he we even hope he would leave his girlfriend or wife. We hope we would be the lucky woman, even even if that would meant even if that meant we would lay down our standards for chance of him kneeling down on one knee with a ring. Truth is, in hindsight, we abandoned our standards against our better judgment, ignored the conviction, and decided to compromise. Ouch. I know the truth hurts sometimes. What happened is we saw his potential, and we believed that certainly one day he would walk in that potential fully, and we would then be the happiest woman on earth. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. The importance of standards. Too often, as women, we are too quick to compromise our standards in exchange for a man's care, kindness, kiss, and commitment. We excuse and overlook what he does not have or who he really is just so we can have a man. Even if he is not the man we believe God will send as perfect and best gift for us. According to the Hunt Dictionary, my definition, Teresa Hunt, oh, okay, I got you. Compromise is to accept into your life and give opportunity to a man who does not meet your standards but meets your emotional needs. Therefore, you pray that his presence in your life is God's plan for your life. I cannot believe how many times I was guilty of this offense before I was married. If you fit in this boat with me, let me tell you, it is time for you to make this a habit of the past. You cannot do this anymore. Stop lowering your standards. Do not adjust what you desire in a man for a counterfeit man that does not come even close. Honey, stick to your standards. The Hunt Dictionary defines standards as a measured level or a set of expectation that align with your authentic desires, which a man must match before allowing him access to your time and a place in your heart. Standards are designed to help you decipher which man you should allow into your space and which man you should dismiss. Catch this. Not every man who approaches you needs to have access to you. Not every man who expresses interest in you has your best interest in mind. Sis, your standards are supposed to weed out the men who do not align with your morals, values, perspectives, desires, beliefs, and your religious views. That's right, sis. You should not be involved with a man who does not worship the same God that you serve. Having standards does not limit your opportunity to experience true love. Instead, standards increase your likelihood of experiencing true love with the right person. When you compromise by allowing a man into your life who is not in alignment with what you desire for yourself, you would never experience the fulfillment you wish to have. Why? Because you are expecting a man who is not what you are truly want to become, someone that he is not. That is like expecting a grape to become a banana. If you want a banana, you need if you want a banana, you need to get a banana, not a grape. So I say to you, if you want a man who is faithful, do not date a man who you know is a playboy. If you want a man who is going to love you like Christ loves the church, then do not allow yourself to become infatuated with a man who only attends Bed-Stuy Baptist. If you want a man who will marry you without your persuasion, then do not get involved with a man who is already committed to another woman. If you want a man who demonstrates chivalry, then do not date a man who lacks proper manners. I know this sounds extremely obvious and simple, but sometimes our common sense dissipates when we want a committed relationship, and we want it now. Frequently, lowering your standards is a result of lacking faith in God. If God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask of Him or think, then why do you not trust that God will exceed what you even think you need in a man? God wants to bless you with His best. Stop settling for less. In order to experience a false representation of love, you need to trust that in God's timing, He will send you a man that do more than meet your standards, but exceed your expectations. It is your faith in Him that will cause you to forsake compromising at any time. It is a time to stick to your standards. Let me clarify. Don't get it twisted. Now, I am not saying to have a long list of standards and a must-haves for a man that you don't even match, nor am I suggesting that you will come in contact with a perfect man who has no flaws at all. I also do not want to give you the impression that your husband God has for you will indeed meet your every requirement. I am saying, however, to stop eradicating your standards because you have become worried and you're waiting on God to bless you with His best. Do not minimize your expectation of a man just because he soothes your emotions. More importantly, you cannot afford to neglect biblical principles and your moral values in order to become a bride or be married soon. I know at times it may not appear to be so, but there are still good men out there. There are high quality men around who are not taken. You do not have to accept just any old thing. When you have standards, man, know that they cannot approach you and or treat you carelessly. You set the tone of a man interaction and relationship with you based on what you accept and allow. This is why you must know what you stand for. The old adage is true. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Listen, if you don't if you do not have some form of standards, you will fall for anything and anyone. Moreover, if you disregard or lower your standards, you are only cheating yourself and setting yourself up for disappointment. It is important to note that a man who truly likes you has the interest in you will rise to your standards, whereas a man who does not have your best interest in mind will turn off and will run from your standards. And this is what you want. Time is something you cannot rewind or get back, so you cannot afford to waste yours. If a man is not serious about you and does not match your standards, let him go on his merry way. You don't have time to waste, nor do you have time to preoccupied with a man who is not serious about looking for his wife when you desire to be married. Establishing standards. After writing his book Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, Steve Harvey shared this while talking about women and standards during an interview with Oprah. You have got sports fishermen. You have got guys out there fishing to eat. You have got guys that are fishing to keep the fish. You have got guys that are fishing to catch them, unhook them, and throw them back. You have got to determine along the way which one of the fish you are going to be. Without ironclad standards, Steve says you are always end up back in the dating pool. You have to quit lowering your standards. Set your requirements up front so when a guy hooks you, he has to know this is a business. Did you get the message? You have to, hey Curtis, you have to have standards in place that let a man know that you mean business. He needs to understand that you are not tolerating mediocrity. In this, sorry, in his interaction with you, remember, I told you earlier in this chapter that you set the tone for relationships by what you accept and what you allow. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what will I accept and what would I allow? The answer to these questions should range from the initial starting point of what will I accept when a man approaches me to what will I accept throughout the duration of the potential relationship. The same thing goes for the question, what will I allow? What will allow when he is getting to know me? What will be allowed when we are in a relationship? You must have your personal standards identified before you even meet a man. If not, you will waver in your standards and develop them as you go as along. This can be harmful considering a woman's feelings and emotions are fickle and deceiving. Once you become emotionally involved with a man, it will be more difficult to effectively uphold the standards you desire. They need to be established now. You know, at the end of the chapter, I will give you an action plan. I'm going to help you get started with one of the action steps now so you have a clear understanding of what you need to do. Let's start with the standards by defining question number 1. What will I accept when a man approaches me? You need to think about the many ways guys have approached you. What did you like? What turned you off? As you reflect back, did the way a man approached you tell you more about his character? Most likely so. Now identify the type of approach that is acceptable to you. What should his body language suggest? What type of speech is attractive to you? Is there a certain demeanor and dress code that is important to you? Do you have a preference about whether he approaches you alone or with a group of people? You need to give consideration to all of these measures. These and more mark the foundation of what you deem as acceptable or unacceptable. And yes, it is perfectly okay not to accept just any old thing. As an example, I will share what was acceptable to me in relation to a man approach. These were standards I established for myself after years of not realizing their importance. That is why I found myself disappointed and frustrated many times before I met my husband, because I did not stand because I did not stand for something. Just like you, I thought I had standards, but many times I let them go by the wayside. My example: what will I accept when a man approaches me? My standard: he must be respectful in his approach and use language like, "Excuse me, hello, my name is, may I talk to you for a minute," etc. Instead of, "Hey ma, yo pretty lady," or "You was fine, let me get your digits." I have heard these pickup lines before, and I just was not going to accept this. "Excuse me, sir, you sound crazy. I was a I was a professional woman, and I needed to be approached as such." More importantly, I only wanted to allow people into my emotional space who were respectful. If a man approaches me with, "Hey ma," then I know we do not share the same idea about respect, and this would be an issue in the future. Yes, something that appears to be so many appears to be so minute as an approach in the big scheme of things that truly gives you perspective of a person's character. My standard: his body language should be one of a good posture and stature, because this exude confidence. I desire his head to be held high and that he make eye contact with me as he is talking. I wanted him to be respectful of my space but not touching me, except through a mutually agreed upon handshake. He should not have his hand in his pants or try to put his arm around me, etc. Eye contact is a way to measure a man's sincerity, and good posture helps me determine his level of confidence and care for his own self. I did not want a man to touch me during his approach. "Excuse me, sir, I don't know you like that." My standard: he must look presentable with properly fitting clothes, not sagging pants, nor jeans as tight as what a girl might wear either. If you were in a church, I prefer a man who wears his Sunday's best and not a flannel shirt with a Timberland boots. If he's wearing a hat, I wanted him to know the importance of taking his hat off if approaching me inside a building. Is approaching me inside of a building. As a woman who takes pride in her appearance, I desire a man who does as well. As an adult, long gone are the days when oversized, sagging clothes and fitted hat are attractive. I wanted a man who had appearance of maturity and self-care. And sir, if your pants or shirt are tighter than mine, oh man, tighter than mine, I may not be the woman for you. Those are just examples of standards I set at as it relates to a man approach to me. First impressions are lasting impressions, and they give you a perception of an individual. Your standards also let a man know a little about you. If he can approach you recklessly, and you accept his approach, then he knows he does not have to try very hard to impress you, and he may possibly believe you are easy. However, if your demeanor exudes that you do not accept nonsense, and a man knows he needs to approach you with respect, then you have now earned his. You want him to respect and honor you. Once he knows he can get over on you without much work, the sooner he would try to get you under him without a commitment. And and you know what I mean. So again, I say to you, establish your standards in this area. The sooner you can identify whether or not a man deserves to have access to you, the better you will be and the less time you will waste. I don't want to overwhelm you with things to ponder. but I am compelling you to truly establish your standards. Many of the problems we experience in relationships are truly because we did not prohibit or prevent certain things. We compromised our standards, accepting and allowing more than what we should have. Then we place all the blame on the man. No, ma'am. Let's make sure we have required much before we relinquish our hearts, bodies, and emotions. We have to do better in the area of upholding our standards. In an effort to not to make the chapter too long, I will give a brief list of few standards I had regarded a question. Well, what would I allow while we are in a relationship? The question is more about how you will allow a man to treat you. This reflects what you stand for, an expectation a man must meet, and a man must uphold your standards for how long you want to be treated. If they do not, then you do not need to continue to allow that man access to time or into your life, space, and emotion. I will I will allow a man to speak to me with uplifting positivity and encouraging words only. I will not accept a man's foul language, demeaning speech, patterns towards me, or allow a man to verbally abusive. I will allow a man to have physical contact, holding hands, etc., with my approval and consent only. The moment a man is forceful or persistent with contact, I will dismiss him from my life. We'll stop there. Today is 12/8/24, and it's 7:30. All right, I'm gonna go to the next book. Oops, sorry, Curtis. I know, my bad, Curtis. I didn't mean that. Go to the next book. Okay. Next book is The Simple Path to Wealth, Your Road Map to Financial Independence and a Rich, Free Life by J.L. Collins with a foreword by Mr. Money Mustache. You know, I do random pages, random chapters too, so here you go. 5, 4, 1. There you go. Chapter 12, Bonds. So far, we have spent a fair amount of time looking at the stock market. Stocks and the index funds we will use to invest in them. Makes sense. They will serve as our wealth building tool and will most likely be the largest part of our holdings. Let me pause this right quick. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, Tru Hicks, on YouTube. I'll also go ahead, the subscribe button on YouTube for Dion's Life. That's Dion, DIONNE apostrophe S, Life. That's my wife, y'all. Go ahead and support her. Give it a hearts up, the thumbs up. Go ahead and share this video. Make sure we get 10 shares. We're going from 10 shares to 100 shares, 100 shares to 1,000 shares, 1,000 shares to 10,000 shares, 10,000 shares to 100,000 shares, 100,000 shares to 1,000,000 shares. So, with your help, that will be possible. So I appreciate everyone for tapping in, supporting me. We going to the top, y'all. We here to the top already, but we just, small amounts, Inshallah, Allah is with us, and um, let's make it do what it do. So let me get back to this book. Chapter 12, Bonds. Oh yeah, go ahead and comment. Got any questions, concerns? Hit the inbox up too. So, but at the various times, we'll be adding bonds to the mix to smooth the ride, add a bit of income, and provide a deflation hedge. Let's take a closer look. Bonds are, in a sense, the more steady and reliable cousins to stocks, or so it seems. But as we see, bonds are not risk free as many believe. The challenge is the subject of bonds is a big topic. The details are endless, and and mo- and most are unlikely to be of the interest of the readers of this book. Heck, they are not all the interest to me. Yet, unless you are comfortable just taking my word for it, you might want to know just what these things are and why they found their way into our portfolio. But how much information is enough? Beats me. So here's what we would do. In this chapter, I will talk about bonds and stages. Once you have read enough to be comfortable owning the things or not, you can just stop reading. If you get a chap, if you get to the chapter end and you want more, entire volumes been written on the subject that could take you further. Stage one: bonds are our portfolio to provide a deflation hedge. Deflation is one of two big micro risks to your money. Inflation is the other, and we hedge against what against that with our stocks. You will recall from earlier that deflation occurs when the price of goods spirals downward and inflation occurs when they soar. Yin and yang. Bonds also tends to be less volatile than stocks, and they serve to our investment make our investment road a bit smoother. Bonds pay interest, providing us with an income flow. Sometimes the interest is tax free. For example, municipal bond interest is exempt from federal income tax and the income tax of the state is which the bonds are issued. Number two, for example, number one, municipal bond interest is exempt from federal income tax and income tax of the state in which the bonds are issued. Number two, U.S. Treasury bonds are exempt from state and local taxes. Stage two, so what are bonds anyway? And how do they differ from stocks? In the simplest terms, when you buy stocks, you are buying a part of ownership in a company. When you buy bonds, you are loaning money to a company or government agency. Since deflation occurs when the price of stuff falls, when the money you when the money you have lent is paid back, it is more purchasing power. Your money buys more stuff than what it lent you. This increase your value helps to offset the losses deflation will bring to your other assets. In times of inflation, prices rise, and so money owned to you loses value. When you get paid back, your cash buys less stuff. Then it's better to own assets like stocks that rise in value with inflation. Stage 3. Since we own bonds in VBTLX, Vanguard Total Bond Index Fund, most of the risk in owning individual bonds go away. At last count, and this will vary a bit, the funds hold 7,843 bonds. All are investment grade, top quality, and non-rated lower than BAA, stage 4. This reduces difficult risk. The funds holds bonds of wildly differing maturity dates, mitigating, mitigating the interest rate risk. The fund holds the fund holds bonds across a broad range of terms, reducing inflation risk. In the next stages, we will talk more about these risks. But what's important to understand at this point is this: if you are going to hold bonds, holding them in an index fund is the way to go. Very few individual investors opt to buy individual bonds, with U.S. Treasuries being the main exceptions, along with the bank CDs, which act like bonds. Stage 4. The two key elements of bonds are the interest rate and the term. The interest rate is simply what the bond issuer, the borrower, has agreed to pay the bond buyer, the lender, you, or by extension, the fund you owe, the funds you own. The term is simply the length of time the money is being lent. So if you were to buy $1,000 bond at a 10% interest rate with a 10-year term from XYZ company, each year XYZ will pay you $100 of interest, 10% of 1,000, okay, for a total of $1,000 over the life of the bond. $100 a year times 10. Yeah, it's 1,000. Okay. If you hold that bond until the end of the 10-year term, it reaches a maturity date, and the bond issuer is obligated to pay your original $1,000 investment. Okay. The only thing you have to worry about is possibly of XYZ default and not paying you back. Okay. So default is the first risk associated with bonds. To help investors evaluate the risk in any company or government bond, various rating agencies evaluate their creditworthiness. They use a scale ranging from AAA on down to D. Kind of like high school. The lower the rating, the higher the risk. The higher the risk, the harder it is to find people to buy your bonds. The harder it is to find people to buy your bonds. The more interest you have to pay to attract them. Investors expect to pay more interest when they accept more risk. So default risk is also the first factor to determine how much interest your bond will pay you. As a buyer of bonds, the more risk you are willing to accept, the higher the interest you receive. Excuse me again. I shall be back. Gotta go get my water. Make sure you gotta drink our water, tea, juice. Yeah, make sure that the juice is real juice. Keep on cleansing the body out, mind, body, and soul. We promote peace, love, unity, community, family. So go ahead and to YouTube and support Dion's life. That's my wife. Who else we can support? Jemiah Talks. She got a fire YouTube as well. Jemiah Talks. That's Jama. Jemiah Talks. Jemiah. Talks. Jemiah Talks on YouTube. So go ahead and support that. I should be back in a couple seconds, and I'm about to go grab my water. So I'll be right back in a minute, y'all. Stage 5. Interest rate. Risk is the second risk factor associated with bonds, and it is tied to the term of the bond. This risk only comes into play if you decide to sell your bond before the maturity date at the end of its term. Here's why. When you decide to sell your bond, you must offer it to buyers on what is called the secondary market. Using our example above, these buyers might offer you more than $1,000 you paid or less. It depends on how interest rates have changed since your purchase. If your rates have gone up, the value of your bond will have gone down. If your rates have gone down, the value of your bond will have gone up. Confusion? No. Look at it this way. You decide to sell your bond. What's up, buddy? When you decide to sell your bond, you must offer it to buyers on what is called the secondary market. Oh, I'm sorry. You decide to sell your bond. You decide to sell your bond from your example above. You paid $1,000 and are earning 10%, $100 per year. Now let's say interest rates have risen to 15% and I have $1,000 to invest. Since I could buy a bond that paid me $150 per year, clearly I'm not going to be willing to pay you $1,000 for your bond that only pays $100. Nobody would. You'll be stuck. Fortunately, however, the secondary bond market, where bonds are traded after the secondary bond market, where bonds are traded after they have been originally issued, will calculate exactly what lower price your bond is worth based on the current 15% interest rate. You may not like the price, but at least you will be able to sell. But if interest rates drop, the roles reverse. If instead of 10% they fall to 5%, my $1,000 will only buy me a bond of paying $50 per year. Since yours pays $100, clearly is worth more than $1,000 you paid. Again, you should wish to sell. The bond market will calculate exactly what your higher price would be. When interest rates rise, bond prices fall. When interest rates fall, bond prices rise. In either case, if you hold to a bond to the end of its term, you will bearing default get exactly what you paid for it. As you are likely guess, the length of term of a bond is our third risk factor and is also determined the interest rate paid. The longer a bond term, the more likely interest rates will change significantly before it matures. And that means greater risk. While each bond is priced individually, there are three bond term groupings: short, medium, and long. For example, with U.S. Treasury securities, the bonds are federal government issued. We have bills, short-term bonds, 1 to 5 year terms; notes, mid-term bonds, 6 to 12 year terms; bonds, long-term bonds of 12 plus year terms. Generally speaking, short-term bonds pay less interest as they are seen having less risk since your money is tied up for a short period of time. Accordingly, long-term bonds are seen as having risk and pay more. If your bond endless, you will graph this on a chart and create what you call the yield curve. The chart on the left is fairly typical. The greater the difference between short, mid, and long-term rates, the steeper the curve. The difference varies, and sometimes the things you get so wacky short-term because become higher than long-term rates. The chart of this event produces the wonderful name inverted yield curve, and it sets the hearts of bond analysts all flutter. You can see what it looks like in the illustration on the right. Stage 7. Inflation is the biggest risk to your bonds. As we have discussed, inflation occurs when the cost of goods is rising. When you lend your money by buying bonds during periods of inflation, when you get back, it will buy less stuff. Your money, is worth less. A big factor is determining the interest rate paid on a bond is the anticipated inflation rate. Since becoming inflation is almost always present in a healthy economy, long-term bonds are long-term bonds are sure to be affected. That's a key reason that typically pay more interest. So when we get an inverted yield curve and short-term rates and higher than long-term rates, investors are anticipating low inflation or even deflation. Stage 8. Here are a few other risks. Credit downgrades. Remember those rating agency we discussed above? Maybe you bought a bond from a company rated AAA. This is a risk that sometimes after you buy, the company gets in trouble and those agencies downgrade its rating. The value of your bond goes down with it. Callable bonds. Some bonds are callable, meaning that the bond issuer can pay them off before the maturity date. They give you your money back and stop paying interest. Of course, they could only do this when interest rates are falling and they can borrow money more cheaply elsewhere. As you know, when rates fall, the value of your bond goes up. If you get called proof, there goes your nice gain. Liquidity risk. Some companies are just not popular, and that goes for the bonds as well. Liquidity risk refers to the possibility that when you want to sell, few buyers will be interested. Few buyers equals lower prices. All of these risks are nicely mitigated simply by owning a broad-based bond index fund. That's why VBTLX is our choice. Stage 9. Municipal bonds are bonds issued by governments and government agencies at the state and local levels. Typical of these funds, public works projects like schools, airports, sewer system, and the like. While offering lower interest rates than corporate bonds, they can have the advantage of being exempt from federal income taxes, which they are generally exempt from state income taxes for the state in which issued. This make them appealing to folks in income tax brackets. Appealing to folks in high I'm sorry. Appealing to folks in high income tax brackets, especially if they have lived in a high income tax state. It also makes them less expensive in interest payments for the governments that issued them. Vanguard has several funds devoted to municipal bonds, including several focus on specific states. Anyone interested can check them out at www.vanguard.com. Stage 10. There are precisely a gazillion different types of bonds. Basically, they come from national governments, state to local governments, government agency and companies. Term length term length, interest rates, and payments terms are limited only by the imagination of buyers, sellers, and regulators. But since this is simple path to wealth, we can comfortably end this discussion here. 7:55. All right, now, thank y'all for tapping in. Subscribe to the channel, heart it up, like it. Make sure we get 10 shares. Again, 10 shares is gonna lead to 100 shares. So, I appreciate everyone tapping in. Today we was reading from The Simple Path to Wealth, and also we read from Position to Be Found, How to Prepare Yourself for Marriage Right Now. So again, I'm gonna show y'all the author. And if y'all got any books out there, y'all wrote books, y'all can send it to me. I'll read them. When I get a chance, when I come around. So send y'all books my way. I love reading. I'm getting better at it, and yeah. I got a few minutes to get up and get going. I have a game today, so that's gonna be fun. So I gotta go stretch out, and go to the gym, and go through my routine with that. That's been going good. So yeah, and I come back on here later today and see what's going on. Let me see. Later on today, I'll probably gonna talk about. I don't know what I'm gonna talk about later on. I'll probably gonna talk about my game tonight. Who knows? Hey, Curtis, what's up, buddy? Wanna say what's up to the camera? Come on. Yeah, I know y'all ready to go outside. Go see the sunrise, right? I know. This is Curtis, y'all. Curtis, ready to go outside, ain't you? You ready? Alright, give me one more minute. What you want me to tell them? Have a great day. Have a blessed day. Take some time out and focus on you. Be righteous. Be truthful. Be at peace. Be at love. Abundance of understanding. Abundance of clarity. Abundance of knowledge. Of wisdom. Cover us in this time. We go forth, allowing your will to be done. We know who you are. All right, y'all. Until next time. Peace, 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 peace.